Hey, what is up, everybody? I am here to give you another Read Aloud series for the WWE Championship, a look back at the rich history of the WWE Championship, written by Kevin Sullivan. Thank you, Kevin Sullivan, for writing this book, because this Read Aloud series wouldn't exist if you didn't write this book. I know that was bad to say, but whatever. Before I start this, I gotta do my normal plugs I normally do when I start this. If you want to check out the other Read Aloud series that I've done for this book, because I go chapter by chapter, you can click right up here. The playlist is right there. You can click, because I don't repeat myself every chapter. Every chapter is its own thing. And if you want to check out the Massasoit Wrestling Corner, right down below, it's hosted by me, James the He-Man Hebert, and Ori Dre. And the next episode is going to be uploaded on Friday, October 2nd, 2015. So make sure you check that out. It's a lot of fun. And then if you want to check out my other stuff I post on this channel in the future, and in the past, you click right down below to subscribe so you can check out all of my content on this channel. And then if you want to check out my other two YouTube channels, one is over here. It's called Owen the Talkinator. It's where I post all my non-wrestling videos. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you check out CM Brothers over here, because that's where I post all my wrestling and non-wrestling stuff. So make sure you check out all that stuff. And three other YouTube channels you can check out is my friend James the He-Man Hebert, who also host the Massasoit Wrestling Corner with me, which is down below, has two YouTube channels. And one is called James Hebert. He makes custom Titrons of professional wrestlers and does vocal voiceovers for music and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. It's a really awesome YouTube channel. Make sure to check it out. Some of the best songs that I've heard have been on that channel, so make sure to check that out. And you can also check out his Weymouth Youth Wrestling channel, where he's using WWE 2K14 video, where he's using the WWE 2K14 video game to create his own wrestling company with storylines and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and you can check it out. He's holding a 32-man tournament to crown the first ever WWF champion, and I'm one of those people in that tournament, and he has finished my character. My character is all done, and I think he says pretty soon he's going to upload some matches from the WIW Gold Rush tournament, so make sure you check that out. And a third channel you can check out is my friend has a YouTube channel. I don't know the name of it offhand, but it's going to be in the annotations. And I think it's called John Tutt. And if John Tutt also does the Massasoit Wrestling Corner with me, which is down below. But he also does the Massasoit Wrestling Corner with me, James the He-Man Hebert, and Ori Dre. He's one of our guests that usually comes on. And you could check him out. He's not going to have any videos up there yet, but he is in the process of recording a video on that channel. So make sure you check that out. So now that I've gone through all that, let me read a chapter in this book. And I think I already know what the next chapter is. Let me just find it. Okay, so this is chapter 17, and it's called Boyhood Nightmare with a question mark on it. And I think I know where this is going, so let's get right into it. As WWE changed toward WrestleMania 11, it started to become clear that Shawn Michaels could no longer be denied his spot at the top of the roster. After more than a decade of tag team success, Intercontinental Championship reigns, and amazing innovations such as the ladder match, the general feeling was that the Hopeway Kid would soon become WWE champion. Yeah, because Shawn Michaels had grown up in the tag team ranks. He was in a tag team with Marty Jannetty called the Walkers, and then he eventually turned heel and turned on Marty Jannetty, and then he went heel. He did his thing in the mid-card with the IC title, and he had that amazing ladder match at WrestleMania 10 against Razor Ramon for the Intercontinental Championship. And then he had that amazing showing in the Royal Rumble, so you could tell that they wanted to make Shawn Michaels a star. So that was cool. So let's continue. Michaels' big opportunity finally came when he eliminated Diesel to win the 1996 Royal Rumble. And yeah, I forgot to mention, Shawn Michaels had already main evented WrestleMania. So um, the victory marked HBK's second straight Rumble triumph and effectively solidified his spot at WrestleMania, where he would challenge Bret Hart. Recognizing the white hot popularity of Michaels' success at the time, WWE's marketing machine began a high publicized campaign promoting HBK's boyhood dream of one day capturing the WWE title. Because that's actually what Shawn Michaels wanted to do growing up. He wanted to be, at that time, WWF champion. Um, they told the story of a 12-year-old Shawn who wanted nothing more than to be like the Goldie champions he saw each week on television. His original chair, his original his original trainer, Rose Lothario, was even brought in to help him prepare. Vignettes of the two training in dingy um, San Antonio locals were shot, and while many insiders scoffed at the idea of having somebody in his 60s train a young man in peak condition, HBK wanted it no other way. Lothario played a major role in the early success of Michaels, and he wanted to repay him by making him a part of the biggest show of the year, WrestleMania. Um, Prior to WrestleMania 12, no WrestleMania main event had ever reached the 25-minute mark. So when longtime WWE employee Pat Patterson came up with the idea of a 60-minute Iron Man match, many were naturally skeptical, but WWE eventually saw it as an opportunity to showcase a revolutionary new match on their grandest stage. Um, I think that was a pretty good idea. It was obviously a risky idea because, like they said, they never had a match go over 25 minutes. At least the main event at a WrestleMania, they never even had a match go an hour. Um, so to take that risk was a pretty big risk because it's hard to get people into a match for an hour. So I think that's normally why they normally do the 25-minute, 30 minutes. But at that time, there wasn't people that could do the moves that Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart could pull off. Like they can just pull off all types of moves. Um, so I think that Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart would have perfectly been able to carry an hour Iron Man match. But it was a risky move. No one was sure if it would work. So let's see if it did. Um, as a result of the decision to hold an Iron Man match, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart were forced to spend the next several weeks preparing their bodies for the hell they were about to endure. At the time, Michaels' schedule allowed for slightly more time off than his opponent, which meant more time to increase his cardio workouts. Hart, however, was forced to prepare for WrestleMania while simultaneously fulfilling his endless commitments as WWE Champion. In addition to making public appearances, the Hitman was on the road every night. His competition at the time was usually Diesel, Undertaker, or Yokozuna, three men who weren't necessarily ideal opponents for somebody looking to increase endurance. I think that's kind of cold, because it kind of isn't fair. I understand Bret Hart's the champion; he has to show up, but if he has to prepare for an hour Iron Man match, because I feel like you have to really train hard to compare, because you're going to be in the win for an hour. Um, I mean, it's an hour Iron Man match. You're going to be in the win for an hour. You have to have really good endurance, and you have to be able to go that hour because you can't just half-ass it. Go 30, just work 30 minutes the match and just do nothing. So I don't really think it's fair that Bret Hart had to do that, but I think Bret Hart would have been fine with that. I think they know that Bret Hart's endurance, anyways, is fine because he was trained in the Hart dungeon, so maybe that's why, and maybe they didn't really think it made any sense to have their champion be off TV for too long. So I can understand where they're coming from as well. So let's see what happened. So I started doing a really strong cardio program early in the day, said Hart. I would exhaust myself, then go back to my room and lie down, and then I would go to the arena and wrestle. It was like having two a days in football. I was mostly riding the stationary bike for an hour at full blast every single day. Then I would go full blast in my matches. On my that was on top of my normal workout. I never trained harder for anything. Well, I just pretty much already talked about. I don't really need to give any input. By the time of WrestleMania, both superstars were in the best shape of their lives. Moments before the match, Shawn Michaels theoretically descended from the Arrowhead Pond ceiling via a zip line, while Bret Hart placed his signature sunglasses on the head of his 6-year-old son, Blade. Um, Before the opening bell even rang, both men had already given the fans WrestleMania moments that would live forever. The match itself doesn't. No, the match itself didn't disappoint either. Either. Amazingly, after 60 minutes of non-stop action, neither man had been able to win a fall. This result this resulted in WWE President Gorilla Monsoon ordering the match to continue under sudden death rules. Um, so that was pretty cool that they went an hour and they ended up going overtime because nobody scored a fall on each other. So that they even wrestled over an hour. Um, let's continue. Despite Hart controlling the majority of sudden death, HBK somehow mustered up enough energy to land sweet chin music. The Hitman crashed on the mat as an exhausted Shawn Michaels. No wait, as an exhausted Michaels fell on top of his opponent. 3 seconds later, Shawn Michaels was WWE Champion. Um, as an emotional Michaels dropped to his knees, hugging his newly won WWE Championship, Vince McMahon, um, jubbingly, I don't know how to say that word, announced to a worldwide audience watching on pay per view that the Boyhood dream had come true. Little did anybody know. Little did anybody know, though, that while it appeared that Michaels was celebrating in the win, the inner, the inner, his inner thoughts were far from festive. We're gonna see what that means in a second, but yeah, that's like one of my favorite matches of all time is that Iron Man match between Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart. And if you want to see my review of that match, it's gonna be up here in the best of rivalry between Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart. That's where it's gonna be. So um, that's where it is. I'll post it up there. Let's continue because I don't really need to say a lot because I've already, anything I said about that match is in that video. Um, I felt all by myself. He says more than 13 years ago after the match. I felt this way many times, but especially on this night. I was in front of 20,000 people, and I don't know how many more watch it on pay per view, but I felt all alone. Um, I suppose in some respect it's kind of sad. I felt a little vindicated and proud of what I had done, but at the same time, all the pressure in the world was on me. It was a bittersweet situation. I guess what he's saying is he knows that now he's the guy. He's the champ now. He's the guy that's holding the company right now. And he probably was nervous about that. Like it probably, I guess, like they're happy to be champion, but they're also nervous because now they have to carry the company on their shoulders when they're champion. So, um, unlike the superstar fans see today, the 1996 version of Shawn Michaels was a self-admitted irrational conspiracy theorist who never believed the company was truly behind him. Instead, he assumed his title reign was nothing but a test to see if he had what it took. And his flammable attitude at the same time didn't make things any easier. Outside of a select few, there weren't many who cared for HBK. Um, Being the heat seeker that I was, I knew there were a number of people hoping for me to fail, says Michaels of his reign. On top of that, I had the pressure to draw money and ratings, it was a pretty unwinnable situation because the credit gets spread around the company when something good happens, but when things aren't going right, the blame is always on the guy wearing the title. As the champ, everybody was looking to me to draw money for their families, while at the same time hoping I would stumble and fail. It was a tough spot to be in. I totally can agree with that. Because on the one hand, if you don't put in the ratings, people are gonna blame the champion. Because then, then again, if you do good, then you're making a lot of money for other people. So it is a pretty nervous situation. Um, and like I said, Shawn Michaels, back in those times, was a dick, and Shawn Michaels even said that at times. So let me continue. Despite the feelings of emptiness and the pressure of being WWE champion, Michaels continued to wow audiences with his in-ring ability. In April, he defeated Diesel in a match that quickly turned ugly. At one point, Big Daddy Cool powerbombed HBK directly through the ringside announcer's table. The devastation of the move left the audience in awe, but it was what happened moments later that proved most memorable. While sitting ringside for the event, legendary AWA wrestler Mad Dog Vacant had his prosthetic leg ripped from his body by Diesel. The challenger tried to use it as a weapon, but Michaels was able to gather the um, artificial limb and use it first, which was followed by sweet chin music for the win. I don't really have any thoughts. According to Diesel, it was Pat Patterson who reminded him prior to the match that Vacant was walking on a possible weapon and that he would be sitting ringside. By night's end, the sight of Michaels using Vacant's prosthetic leg, coupled with his ability to rebound from such a brutal beating, provided one of his first truly memorable moments of HBK's reign. That's a pretty cool stuff right there. Um, Continuing, over the next several months, Michaels recorded. No, hold on, I screwed up. Over the next several months, Michaels record recorded victories over much larger competition, included the British Bulldog and Vader. But despite the wins in the ring, the stress was continuing to mount. WCW's Monday Night, no, WCW's Mighty Nitro had begun its 84-week reign atop the Monday Night TV ratings war. Pretty much saying that the Monday Night Wars that started in WCW was winning. Which caused some to question HBK's ability to bring WWE back to the top. This just further infuriated an already combustible Michaels, who responded by verbally attacking anybody in the locker room on a regular basis. In his mind, there was no way he was the problem for WWE's perceived inequalities. Pretty much saying that he wasn't responsible for the WWF failing to beat WCW in the Monday Night Wars. He was putting on some of the best matches of all time, so everybody felt his wrath. Part of WWE's problem at the time, according to Michaels, was that they were not cutting edge enough. WCW had the New World Order, which also means NWO. They had Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, as well as the newly dubbed Hollywood Hogan, who had just turned his back on the fans. They were doing the unthinkable. HBK was traveling the country with his elderly trainer, smiling ear to ear for his clique. Yeah, so I think, because what he's saying is, when he was on top, that WCW was doing more edgier things by having Hulk Hogan turn heel, because that was something that the WWF had never done. They never had Hogan turn heel. And when Hulk Hogan finally turned heel, everybody was tuning into WCW, and they were doing the NWO and doing the Outsiders Invasion thing with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Everybody was interested. And then, he was even at that time when they were putting in bad characters in the WWF that no one really cared enough to see that. So I can understand. In September 1996, Michaels had the opportunity to briefly scratch his itch to be edgy when he faced the deranged Mankind, also known as Mick Foley, at In Your House Mind Games. Mankind's mechanical fighting style gave HBK the excuse he needed to turn up the volume and do some brawling as opposed to pure wrestling. In the end, it was Michaels winning via disqualification after Vader ran in and attacked the champ. Despite the loss, Foley later praised Michaels in his book, Have a Nice Day, for carrying him to such a great match. Um, I'm just gonna silence my phone real quick. Okay. Alright, so I'm continuing. Sorry about that. Um, I have, I too have always been proud of that match, claims Michaels, and I have to give a ton of the credit to Mick because at that time I was so goody two shoes, but his character brought some really different perspectives to the match, which made HBK more aggressive. I was doing things that I wouldn't have ordinarily done. There was a more rugged aspect to the match. That's always been one of my personal favorites because it wasn't a ranked rank and file Shawn Michaels performance. Um, Surprisingly, a pay per view rematch was never announced, despite this being relatively common practice following a disqualification in a match of such magnitude. Instead, Michaels entered into a rivalry with Psycho Sid, who beat Vader at In Your House, Buried Alive, to become the number one contender for HBK's title. Um, so now we're going to hear a little bit about Psycho Sid. Sid was a mountain of a man who some say nearly reached his full potential during his first run with WWE in the early 1990s, which we heard about him. But since returning in 1995, fortunes his fortunes began to change. It wasn't common to see Sid in main events oppo- up, up, opposite the likes of Diesel or Vader, and on November 16th, 1996, he found himself in yet another main event. This time he was challenging HBK for the WWE Championship at Survivor Series at Madison Square Garden. The match will forever be remembered for the reaction Shawn Michaels received from the fans. For years, the MSG crowd had been ahead of the curve. If they didn't like somebody, they let it be known, regardless of whether every other arena in the world cheered that person. Which is why they obviously like Madison Square Garden. Okay, continuing. On this night, they didn't like Shawn Michaels. His smiling goody his smiling good guy routine had grown old with them, and for the first time in years he was showered with booze. The and that means this. That doesn't mean alcohol. The crowd response resulted in a negative reaction from HBK, who began to antagonize the audience even more. At one point, he even sarcastically signaled for more booze. For fans of Michaels, the sight of him playing the bad guy certainly was surreal. I bet everybody didn't know what to think because like he was supposed to be the face, and people, some fans liked him because he was face, and when he was acting like a bad guy, they didn't know how to react. Um, I know people thought I lost my cool that night, explained HBK, but the truth is I responded naturally to how they responded to me. The emotional part of the business always has always been very real. Some people thought have let it I shouldn't have let it get to me, but that's just silly. That's like having somebody slap you in the face and you turn around and walk away. That's nothing. That's not something I do. That makes sense. Um, the business was changing then anyway. I knew that the guy they liked was a lot more rugged than they were allowing me to be. On that particular night, in front of that crowd, they felt the good guy was a dweeb and that Sid was cool. I felt that I should respond accordingly. I was supposed with I suppose some people would disagree, but at the time I was emotional and reactionary. I always did what I thought was natural. Anything else is less anything else is less real. And what it's less real people know. And when it's less real people know, sorry. Um yeah, there we go. I think that makes sense. Um I think this some when Shawn Michaels said he reacted naturally, I think that's why he made the bad decisions he had made though. Um hold on, I'm just checking. Okay. About three more pages left. Okay. Um with the ruckus crowd breaking the challenger, Sid assaulted. No, sorry, I read it wrong. With the raucous crowd, with the ruckus crowd back in the challenger, Sid assaulted um well Joe's Lothario with a television camera. A distraught Michaels quickly ran to his mentor's side, but while attending to Lothario, he too was hit by a camera. What wielded? He was hit with a camera. Sid. Moments later, Sid delivered a bone-shattering powerbomb and covered Michaels for the win. 8 months after Michaels had achieved his boyhood dream, his world was crumbling around him. Not only did he lose the WWE Championship, but he also lost the most influential crowd in the world, the one at Madison Square Garden, which isn't a good thing. Um, so let's continue. Sid, despite and by the way, here's a picture of Sid. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there it is. A picture of Sid winning the WWF Championship. Sid, despite the victory, wasn't in a much better place mentally. Unlike the select few before him, who were lucky enough to proudly call themselves WWE champions, Sid actually saw it as a burden. Um, I didn't want the extra weight of the title to carry around, admits Sid nearly a decade and a half later. I actually tried to keep it with the wing crew because I didn't want it in my bag. I never went home and showed it off, and I never took pictures with it. Plus, being champion really just increased my workload. That's all. I guess I can understand that, but it's at the same time, if you people get into professional wrestling, um, obviously want to get into WWE. If you don't have that goal in mind, um, then you're fooling yourself. Um, you shouldn't really be wrestling. Well, if you love wrestling, some people love wrestling and don't want to work for WWE, which makes sense. But that should at least be your goal. And then when you get to WWE, obviously your main goal is to hold the title. So I don't really agree with that. Um, but let's see what he says. I look at the business differently than a lot of other people. I don't look at wins and losses and title reigns. If you won the title 14 times, you lost it 15 times. I was brought up in smaller territories where you weren't going to see the title because it was always on Jerry Lawler or Robert Fuller. So we didn't expect titles. I guess that makes sense. Um, Luckily for Sid, he wasn't tasked with lugging the gold around for very long. Just 2 months into his reign, he lost the title to HBK at the Royal Rumble in a match that took place in Michael's hometown of San Antonio, Texas. I had a lot of friends from high school there that night, says Michaels. It was important to me because it was the first real dome show that we had done in a long time, and it was important to me to have the place full. I was really admired. by performing in front of my friends in a 60,000 seat dome. Um, it probably was important to him too, because I bet some of those people just told Shawn Michaels when Shawn Michaels had said that he wanted to be WWF champion. They were like, "Oh, you're crazy, man. That's not gonna happen." And then that was kind of to rub it in their face. And it was probably nice for Shawn Michaels to be in his hometown, because obviously, if a wrestler or anybody playing the sport goes in the whole time, they're gonna get a big reaction, a good reaction too. So let's continue. To help fill the monstrous venue, WWE launched a massive Texas-based marketing campaign using fans to come out and support their home state hero. It was one of the most rare times in history that the challenger was used as the main marketing tool over the champion. Um, that's kind of cool. Sid shrugged it off. If they thought Shawn was more marketable than me, that's fine, he says. They know the business part of the business better than I do. You can't be offended by that. I'm a different person than most of the other guys. I never looked at a wrestling magazine, never read a dirt sheet. If you're looking for accolades there, then you're in the wrong business. I learned that in my first year when I was Lord Humongous, I think that says. Some dirt sheet said, "Who is that Who is that doing the Lord Humongous gimmick? He's the worst Lord Humongous of all time." Robert Fuller was the booker and a good friend of mine, and he told me not to look at those things again, and ever since then I haven't. I guess that makes sense. Before I continue, here's a picture of Shawn Michaels and Sid. Well, Psycho Sid. Okay, so let's continue. With the title back in his possession, HBK appeared poised for another lengthy WWE Championship run. But shortly after regaining the gold, a casual trip home turned fateful and eventually altered the course of Shawn Michaels' career. "I went to see my mom," recalls HBK. "At the time, a lot of people didn't like me. I was tired and run down. She finally turned to me and said, 'You don't smile anymore. You've lost your smile.'" 3 weeks later, Michaels would use those same words in what would turn out to be one of WWE's most historic interviews, but first, he had to get his injured knee examined. I had gone to I had gone to just a general orthopedic in San Antonio. That was before we had Dr. James Andrews. The guy in San Antonio didn't know anything about our line of work. He looked at me and said, "With a knee like that, you're done. You'll never wrestle again." I thought, I'm only 32 years old and it's all over. That is pretty young to get out of the wrestling business. Um, but the next what happens on February 13th, 1997, a somber Shawn Michaels broke the bad news to the public in an interview with Vince McMahon on Raw. Over the past couple of months, there's been a lot of talk of people having bad attitudes and a lot revolving around this belt, said Michaels as he looked down at the WWE Championship. All I know today is that one thing that is not going to revolve around this belt for a long time is going to be Shawn Michaels. I don't know where I am at right now. I have to have everything checked. I may be beyond reconstructive knee surgery. I may or may not be be able to fix it. But if I can't come back and perform at the level I performed at before, I can't perform. I can't come out here and just go half-ass. I have to come out here and I have to romp and stomp, and I have to get tossed around. I have to toss people around and I have to have fun. The schedule over the past year I took on because I didn't feel like I could say no. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to enjoy my life as the champion. I wanted to ride in um, Learjets, and I to ride in limousines. I wanted to be on TV shows and I wanted to do autograph sessions. And I got to do every bit of that. If nothing else, all I have all of that to take with me. I know right now we are in the middle of a time where toughness is real big here in WWE, and unfortunately, all I've got for you right now is a lot of sorrow, and a lot of tears, and a lot of emotion. I don't have any toughness for anybody, so I guess here you go. Here's your belt, said HBK, handing over the WWE Championship. What I'm going to do is go back home and see what's left for me. Whether it be in this win, whether it be out of this win, continued Michaels, thinking back to the words with his mother. No, thinking back to the words his mother told him 3 weeks earlier. I know that over the last several months I've lost a lot of things, and one of them was my smile. And I know it doesn't mean a whole lot to everybody else, but it means a lot to me. So I have to go back and fix myself and take care of myself. And I have to go back and I have to find my smile. Because somewhere along the line I lost it. I don't care if it's unpopular. I don't care if people want to make fun of me because I'm an emotional guy. But um, this is all I ever wanted to do, and over the last year I got to do it. Tears began to fall down Michael's face as he struggled to continue. Um, Whether you like me or not, I just want to tell you that the that last year was the most wonderful year of my life. And if I never get to do it again, it'll be okay because I got to live one full year as being the number one guy in this business. It was the single most greatest year of my life, and I have you to thank, and I have everybody here to thank, and it means a lot to me. I'm going to go home now. An emotional Shawn Michaels rode off into the sunset, not knowing if he would ever lace up a pair of boots again. To this day, many of his macho peers still poke fun at him for being so emotional during the Lost Smile interview. That sounds like it's an amazing interview. I'm definitely gonna have to check it out later. I did hear about this though. I know that Shawn Michaels did end up giving up the WWF Championship at that time because he had lost his smile, and I wonder if his mom didn't say that we would have that interview. Um, I mean, obviously in kayfabe, he was injured, so they had to give up the title. But that was actually a pretty decent reason to give up the title was that he lost his smile. I don't know if what was going on with Shawn Michaels at the time, but that's actually pretty cool stuff, and I think that was a good angle. Um, Before I continue, here's a picture of Shawn Michaels as champ. So let's continue. It was something my mom said and something I knew was true, recalls Michaels. I was miserable, so I said it. People bring that line up to me, and it's supposed to bother me, but it doesn't. I was a miserable son of a bitch. Life was horrible. Everything isn't about wrestling. It took me 20 years to figure that out. That's sad. Anybody who thinks like that is silly. I'd rather be real than convince some jack off in a gym that I'm a bad SOB. So yeah, I actually thought that was kind of cool. Um, but HBK really being real, longtime rival Bret Hart thought Michaels was faking to avoid to defend the title against him. Hart recalls the moment in his 2007 autobiography, Hitman. He walked out without so much as a limp and with the heartbreak trickle of the occasional tear. He talked of having lived his dream. Fans jeered him so the cameras cut to the close ups of girls crying. He said he simply had to listen to his doctors. He not only hurt his knee, he had lost his smile over the last few months and was going home to find it. Every wrestler standing with me rolled his eyes as Michael forfeited the title, handing the belt to Vince, who was caked in makeup and looked particularly Dracula-like as he too appeared to be fighting back tears. I worked a tag team match with Shawn at the Meadowlands only 3 days before, and there was nothing wrong with his knee. So I don't know what actually happened. Maybe Shawn Michaels' knee had gotten hurt before that. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure about the whole story. But let's continue. The day after HBK surrendered the WWE Championship, McMahon called him and urged him to see noted orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews in Alabama. After um, after examining the leg, Dr. Andrews agreed that it was in bad shape, but he told Michaels he could still perform if he could with, withstand the pain, wear a brace, and go through an extensive rehab process. The sudden change in diagnosis did little to help convince the naysayers that the knee was legit, that the injury was legitimate. So that doesn't help. I know people thought at the time I was trying to be dis- disingenuous and swerve people, but I never. But I've never actually. No, but I've never really had a lot of foresight into anything I do. Most of the stuff I've done in my career has been on emotion and reaction. I don't put a whole lot of contemplated forethought into anything. I don't really have that ability. I don't like to overthink anything. I think life is pretty simple, and I think our business is pretty simple. I tend to think if you overthink any of it, you just complicate it. Um, I've managed to create a successful career on emotion and reaction, so I figured I would just go with that as opposed to something else. Legitimate or not, Michael's title reign was over, and WWE was left scrabbling for a new champion. And then that's it. So that's the end of the chapter. Um, Good chapter. I think this is the longest one I ever done. Um, so yeah, I actually kind of like the way Shawn Michaels lives. I don't really trash the way people live though. As long as people don't, if people do bad things, I don't trash them for it. As long as you don't bring me down with you, then we're good. Um, and Shawn Michaels, had done some bad things, but I don't know if Shawn Michaels um, feels that way now. But what he is saying is true. Life is pretty simple. People overthink it sometimes, but life isn't as simple as they believe. There's so much complicated stuff about life that I can't even explain. Um, that's just my thoughts there. But great chapter. So Shawn Michaels had achieved his dream of becoming WWF champion, and he had that great match with Brett. And then Sid came in. I feel like Sid was kind of a pointless reign, but I guess everybody had turned on him, and that's kind of how it went. That's really all I have to say there. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you guys for checking out this read aloud, and I'll try to do some more tomorrow. But until then, I'll talk to you guys at some point. And make sure to check out the Massasoit Wrestling Corner this Friday down below.